Now, Minnesota is on fire right now. President Trump just signaled he's done watching the state collapse under Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. Now, today you're going to see $1 billion in fraud, $500 million more, $84,000 a year welfare checks, ballot harvesting, and even a citizenship bombshell the media tried to bury. Let's start with what happened inside the White House briefing room.
You said, and I quote, "Leaders also have a duty to preserve the integrity and character of our nation's national identity." Can you explain what you mean by our nation's national identity and integrity and character, and how would refugees, people coming from war-torn places who are seeking a safe haven in America, like many of our forebears in this room, not add to our nation's integrity and character of our national identity?
I'll tell you what does not add to our nation's character and integrity is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of asylum and fleeing persecution, and then come to the United States to abuse our system and rip off American taxpayers. And as I pointed out, the New York Times, to their credit, it was about 6 months too late, but they did write about how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers. In fact, 86 people have been charged in a rampant and widespread fraud scheme spanning multiple programs in Minnesota. Of those 86, 78 of those people are Somali, 91% of them charged. So far, 59 of those people have been convicted for their roles in fraud plots that have stolen $1 billion from taxpayers. In one scheme, and this is egregious, a nonprofit and its affiliates with these Somali migrants claimed to have fed tens of thousands of American children during the pandemic. They were reimbursed for those meals by taxpayers. However, federal prosecutors found that almost all of those meals were never even delivered to hungry children. In fact, those organizations' leaders spent the money on houses, luxury cars, and real estate in Turkey and Kenya. Another scheme involved hundreds of organizations who were reimbursed for services that were supposed to help people at risk of homelessness. Once again, those services were never provided. All of this has happened under Democrat leadership in a Democrat-run state where these refugees, these migrants are coming to the United States. They are abusing our system. They are draining our resources that should be going to law-abiding, taxpayer-funded, tax-paying Americans. And this president is not going to put up with it anymore. Rachel.
Thank you, Carol.
I love the caption that's added to this. The adults are back in charge. America first is back, baby. Yeah, this right here is the part the media praise that you never see. Legal immigrants from 100 years ago didn't steal $1 billion in child nutrition funds, but under Walz's leadership, sham nonprofits, fake meal programs, luxury cars, suitcases full of cash. That wasn't mismanagement. That was systemic abuse right there, clearly. And it gets even worse. If you think that billion was the whole story, Minnesota Insider just exposed something even more explosive.
So not only did the Minnesota Department of Human Services alert Tim Walz of the fraud, but they also alerted Kamala Harris to the fraud that Tim Walz was allowing. What am I talking about? Well, I'll tell you, on September 11th, 2024, the Minnesota Department of Human Services sent this message to Kamala Harris saying, "Hey, we work really hard to make sure things are great here in Minnesota, and unfortunately your running mate is not doing a very good job. So we just wanted to let you know." And then they attached this, the fraud waste case tracker from 2019 to 2024, feeding our future, $250 million. Child Care Assistance Program, $100 million. All the Medicaid, all of this totaled $500 million. And they alerted Kamala Harris to it in 2024 before the election. And not only did Tim Walz know, but Kamala Harris knew, and she didn't care.
Now, nearly 500 government employees, they tried to warn Walz, and instead of stopping the theft, he retaliated. He protected the image of his administration while $500 million vanished from child care, Medicaid, housing programs. And you can only imagine so much more, right? A billion here, half a billion there. Minnesota didn't slip, right? It was flooded, and Walz let the water rise. And when systems break this badly, the people gaming it don't even hide it anymore.
A few weeks ago, a business owner here in California told me that one of his new employees asked to be paid in cash, not on payroll. Why? The business owner asked. Well, because the employee from Afghanistan was worried that he would lose his welfare payments. How much is that? $7,000 a month. That is $84,000 a year here in California. So when we look at this massive scandal in Minnesota, $1 billion from the social services system in fraud and corruption, you can be sure it is much, much worse right here in California. We already know that over $20 billion in the pandemic from the EDD scandal was sent in welfare payments to people in jail, on death row, people who are dead. We know that over $24 billion was completely lost on homelessness spending. All that money spent, and we still have situations like this all over California, everywhere you look. That's why today I am calling for a complete and total audit of every part of California's bloated welfare state, so we find the corruption and the fraud and the waste in Gavin Newsom's California and end it.
Now, before I actually comment on this, I did misspeak when I was referring to the last clip. When I think I said that 500 employees tried to warn Walz, but I meant to say they tried to warn Kamala Harris, and she tried to protect the image of her administration at the time. Boom, boom, boom. But now back to this. You know, mistakes happen, and I'm sure somebody's going to be like, wait, what? You just got that? Anywho, in reference to this clip right here, $84,000 to sit and wait for the check. When the state rewards you for doing nothing, doing nothing becomes a business model, it seems. And the people paying for it are the same people Walz lectures about compassion. But here's the twist. Someone inside Minnesota actually confirmed the culture behind this. They did. And he says something no Democrat in the state has the curse to say out loud.
This video is for Somalis that reside in the state of Minnesota, and specifically for Somalis that want to remain Somali and not American. My name is Kendall Qualls. I'm a candidate for governor running to represent all Minnesotans as a Republican in the next election cycle. Next year, we're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of this great nation. And over the course of that time, millions of people from around the world have been eager to call themselves American citizens. And over the course of that time, they've made this nation a better nation, a stronger nation, a safer nation in their own communities. But quite frankly, my friends, we don't feel like we've been getting that from the Somali community here in Minnesota. Now, if you want to come here and live here as Americans, we welcome you. But if you want to come here and stay as Somalis, what that, my friends, has never happened in the course of American history, where a people have rejected their host nation, taken advantage of their privileges and their generosities, and then reject that citizenship and the notion of free market enterprise, their loyalty to this nation. That's never happened. And it will not happen as we move forward. In the next election cycle, I'm going to petition the Justice Department to ensure that we have the safest and the fairest election in the history of this state. No more fraud or accusations of fraud, because we're not going to be the generation that lost Minnesota. We're going to be the generation that saved it.
No, that was powerful. A black Republican out here telling the truth, man. You didn't come to America to recreate the place you fled. You came for opportunity, safety, and freedom. But Democrats built entire political machines off dependency, not assimilation, obedience. This next video shows exactly how deep the corruption around Ilhan Omar really goes. I said clip, but it's really, y'all know how this go. It's really this post that Donald Trump reposted right here. I'll leave that up for you to read. I'll read the first paragraph. The Somali state of Minnesota. Minnesota is being systematically transformed. Its people replaced, its cities turned into foreign enclaves or enclaves, I believe that's the word. And its future rewritten by mass migration and soaring immigrant birth rates, all by design. Then you can see the numbers right there below it. Seniors cornered for ballots. You got bags of cash moving through apartment towers, campaign workers photographing social security cards, a database tracking every vote. This isn't community organizing. This is an operation, a pay to vote ecosystem built right under Walz and Omar's noses, and sometimes with their people running it. And then the bombshell that ties all this together. Because if this next part is true, everything you just saw becomes 10 times more disturbing. This is something Trump also shared on his Truth Social.
Hey sports fans, AJ Kern here. I recently received a letter from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services that I'd like to share with you in a moment. But first, a little background. In 2019, Ilhan Omar changed her birth year from 1981 to 1982 on her Minnesota State Legislative page, Wikipedia, and her U.S. Congressional page. You can watch a video explaining why on ajkern.com. You can also watch another video of my visit to the Minnesota Secretary of State's office, where I learned that they did not verify Ilhan Omar's citizenship. Now, last year I learned that you may request records such as naturalization records on refugees who are deceased. Now, Ilhan Omar's father, Nur Omar Mohammed, did pass away in 2020. So I did submit a request to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the federal agency that processes and maintains naturalization records. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, Ilhan Omar claims that she obtained citizenship when she was 17 years old, meaning that she's claiming she derived citizenship through her father. How it works is an adult refugee, they apply for citizenship, they go through the process, and when they naturalize, their minor children derive citizenship through that parent. On the form that I sent, I included the name her father used when he lived in Somalia. I also included a news article with a photo of her with her father, and this news article did verify that he did pass away in 2020. Whoever conducted the record search, they knew exactly whose records I was seeking. So it took a whole year. I did receive the letter on June 20th, and ironically, June 20th is World Refugee Day. Interesting. Your index search request was received in this office on June 27, 2022 regarding Nur Omar Mohammed. Yada yada, we completed a thorough search for records. Unfortunately, we found no matching index reference. Our search included all variations of the subject's name, including Nur Saeed Elmi Mohammed, with the same results. There's no records. You can see the letter on ajkern.com. And I want to be clear about this. The federal agency which processes and maintains naturalization records, they have no index reference. There's no record. He never naturalized. So it's impossible for Ilhan Omar to have derived citizenship through her father. It looks like Ilhan Omar is not a citizen. She just didn't count on the fact that someone might request her father's records. So it looks like Ilhan Omar has committed voter fraud and may have perjured herself when she ran for Congress. So this is a call to action. If you live in Minnesota, I'm asking you to go to ajkern.com, print out the letter, then go to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and file a voter fraud complaint. You don't want to go by yourself? Good. Take a friend. Take your entire Senate District BPOU with you. You can all sign the complaint. Contact your Minnesota state legislators. They should also file complaints and take action. Contact your members of Congress. they should file a voter fraud complaint with the FBI. It does affect a federal election. Additionally, your very own Michelle Fischbach sits on the Congressional Ethics Committee, and this is the committee that would initiate the removal of Ilhan Omar. Every citizen across this nation should be contacting their member of Congress to do whatever it takes to remove Ilhan Omar. All the elected officials took an oath to defend the Constitution. Now it's time for them to step up and do so. So we cannot allow a Somali nationalist to be in Congress writing and voting on laws that affect the American people. I don't know about you, but I'm not having it. Our founding fathers sacrificed way too much for this nation and for our freedom. I'm asking you to share this video. I'm asking you for your prayers. Please pray for our nation every day. And remember, Genesis 12:3. I'm AJ Kern, and I approve this message.
If USCIS really has no naturalization record for Ilhan Omar's father, then her entire citizenship claim falls apart completely. No record, no verification. If that's accurate, she shouldn't just be out of Congress. She shouldn't be, I don't even want to say the V word, but it rhymes with moting. She shouldn't even be legally working here, right? And yet she's one of the most influential Democrats in Minnesota politics right now. Walz, Omar, refugee networks, welfare pipelines, ballot harvesting. It's all the same ecosystem. And now you'll see how even mainstream commentators, are finally breaking that silence. My God. Because even CNN couldn't ignore what Walz actually said.
But I'll tell you who is a complete piece of shit. I'm going to tell you right now.
There have been a lot of swear words at this
Tim
table today.
Walz,
Okay.
the governor of Minnesota, holding up a phone in front of a rally saying, well, we thought we were going to wake up and find out the president had died. Someday it'll happen. Someday it'll happen.
Although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
And I used to say he was the biggest buffoon in American politics, but it's worse now. But I'll tell you who is a complete piece of shit. I'm going to tell you right now.
There have been a lot of swear words at this
Tim
table today.
Walz,
Okay.
who is a complete piece of shit.
I just wanted him to be able to say that twice, y'all. I'm just saying, I said it before, when you've lost CNN, you've lost the shield. Tim Walz stood on the stage, joked about waking up to Trump dying, and told the crowd someday it'll happen. I mean, that's true for everybody, right? But the way he emphasized it, this is the man Democrats want elevated. This is the leadership behind the $1 billion fraud, the retaliation, the welfare explosion, the ballot harvesting machine, and the Ilhan Omar citizenship circus. Minnesota isn't mismanaged. If you ask me, from where I'm sitting, it looks compromised. And Trump is the only one calling it for what it is. Minnesota is ground zero for the collapse of accountability in America right now. If Trump didn't step in and expose this, none of this would even be public. And after watching all 7 of these clips, it's no longer a political argument. It's a math equation, right? It's fraud plus corruption plus zero oversight. What does that equal? Collapse. And Minnesota hit every variable. Now, if you made it to the end of this video, I want y'all to put the math ain't mathin'. That way I know you made it to the end of 19 minutes, and it's probably going to be about 20 seconds. But other than that, y'all be safe. Please go check on a friend today. You can quite literally be saving their life. And I'm not just saying that to say that. Really go do that. Peace.